Okay, Assalamu alaikum brothers and sisters, welcome back. In this video we'll be talking about the seller standards, right? The top rated, the above standard and the below standard. And we're going to look at your service metrics, and we're going to look at your item not received cases and so on. In the previous video I was telling you guys about the algorithm, and those things work, all of them work, given that your seller quality performance level is performing very nicely. The other algorithmic stuff is not going to be throttled. If your seller performance level is not as high as it should be, you're going to have a lot of drawbacks from it. That 20% demotion to 20% promotion is today's video. Okay, so let's start with an article from ebay.com.au itself, right? So in this article, as you can see, they're talking about the seller standards policy, and in the seller standards policy they're talking about their requirements, right? So our seller performance requirements are intended to help ensure that the buyers have a great experience on eBay. So what they're saying is the reason why we're giving you these standards, so then the buyers can shop and come back for eBay and for more. That's why you're going to be evaluated on the way that you perform within our platform, right? Your seller level indicates whether you're meeting our or exceeding our minimum standards, right? So basically above standard is you're meeting their policies, their standards. They have this algorithmic mathematical thing going on in the algorithm where they evaluate you by how well you've been performing. And if there's a threshold, if you're exceeding better than that, they put you on top rated. Top rated basically means you're performing better than their standards. Above standard, you're performing within that standard or a little bit above, right? Below standard is you're performing below their expectations. Don't ever go to below standard. If you go to below standard, all of those algorithmic things that I've told you in the previous video is gone. You're not going to get any benefits from that algorithmic stuff that I told you about, right? They will throttle your impressions. They will throttle your sales. They will send customers that have indications of lower buyer intent, meaning they will send you the window shoppers, right? Because they have the history of the buyers and how they perform on the platform. Apart from you as a seller, when you go there as a buyer, they're gonna evaluate you as a buyer. And if you've been performing below standard, they're gonna start giving you window shoppers, right? So then you get even worse and worse and worse metrics. There are obviously ways around it, but if you go below standard, you're very much cooked. Okay, don't ever risk your account. Your account prevention is a lot more important than your sales, for this exactly same reason, right? You may get 1 or 2 sales and then fill up your pockets for a day or two, but then when they throttle you, goodbye to those sales, right? And when you're below standard, you pay higher fees, the transaction fees to eBay, versus if you were above or top rated seller. So they charge you more. It's like them saying, if you're gonna perform worse on our platform, worse than what we expected you to perform, get out of our platform. We don't want you here. And they mean it. They don't want you there. Anyway, so every month we take a look at how much you've sold recently, right? There's a reason for that. They're gonna, if once you go above a threshold, they're gonna evaluate you. If you're above that threshold, they're gonna evaluate you for the last 3 months. If you haven't, in order for them to make a better mathematical calculation, they're gonna evaluate you in the last 12 months of sales history. But we're gonna get to that soon. Sold recently, and how many of those sales resulted in poor experiences for the buyers, whether it be item not received cases, right? Such as not receiving the items they ordered. This is one of the, I will say this is one of the most metrics, the most important metrics, item not received cases. Because when you have the item not received cases, first of all, you didn't only make the buyer experience very poor, you also force eBay to lose their money. And if you're forcing the eBay to lose their money, I told you eBay is a very, very money focused platform. If you take their money away from them, they hate you. They don't like you. Moving on. They measure individual performance on areas within your control. So everything is again relative to how your competitors were performing, and within your control. What they mean by is, have you been fulfilling orders on time, resolving any buyer issues that you had open against yourself, right? So if a buyer is asking you for questions and they said that they didn't receive their item, are you jumping in for them and are you trying to resolve this situation? So these are things within your control in the eyes of the eBay, right? We also have some safeguards in place to protect sellers and ensure fair valuation. So if a buyer is opening fake item not received cases and you're providing tracking numbers, what's going to happen is they're going to jump in and they're going to be favoring you, right? Because they don't, as much as they want to protect the buyers, they want to protect their money as well, right? And also, you as a seller, they want you to participate in selling because you're the person that they're going to get the transaction fees out of, right? So they want to be as fair as I could possibly be, but they're always going to be, like, I would say 90% of the cases, they'll be on the side with the buyer because they're the one with the money. 10% of the cases, they're going to be with the side of the sellers because you are the seller, you are the people that are going to allow the buyers to come and shop on there. Okay, moving on. It's important to check your seller dashboard on a regular basis. This is just whatever. And then you can, it's basically saying like check it regularly. So if you're seeing any item not received cases, just know that you're going down, so do everything that you can fix it. Okay, moving on. If your current or projected seller level has dropped to below standard, they're going to thank you. It's important to focus on minimizing cases closed without seller resolution and order cancellations as soon as possible. So if you already have, this is what we observed with the accounts. You want to close item not received cases. You want to resolve them, whether it be refunding the buyer or whether it be finding a solution, right? You want to resolve them ASAP because if they stay on your account, I believe more than 3 days, they start throttling your impressions. They don't want those things to sit more than 3 days for some reason. Okay, give or take 3 days, right? Plus or minus 1 day. There is no exact time, but this is what we've been observing across many accounts, not 10 accounts, but obviously I'm in touch with a lot of other dropshippers, and then they usually tell me the same thing. It's 3 days. Something is going on there. Again, I'm not talking about if it's Monday and then it's going to be throttled on Tuesday. When I say 3 days, take hours into account. 78 hours, right? 72 hours, my bad. So take those into account. After, if you don't see anything, if the buyer is responding, try to resolve it somehow within the 72 hours. If you have to, just to let you know, if you have to refund the buyer, even though you know that they're trying to scam you, like, I would, personally speaking, I will refund them just to protect my account, because my account is going to bring me a lot more money than $72. And if you're following the way that I'm doing, you can always go back to Amazon and then put in a complaint and say that, if the buyer said that the items are not received, you are the buyer there. And don't forget that Amazon is a very, very customer service oriented entity, so you can claim your money from them. Okay, so don't forget that. Even if they have the delivery, you can say things like, well, I understand that the item might have looked like that it's been delivered, but I just haven't received it. I looked and it wasn't there, right? And delivery cases are happening a lot on Amazon, so understanding towards it, right? So I'm not telling you to lose your money. I'm telling you to protect your account as much as you can, even if that means you're losing your money. Okay, so try to protect your money as much as you can. But if you had to make a decision about protecting your account versus losing money, best you bet, lose the money. Don't worry about the money, because the account is going to bring you a lot more money than the money that you're going to lose. Moving on. So this policy, all sellers are required to maintain the following minimum performance standards, right? Cases closed. So what cases closed is, if someone opened an item not received cases, right? You're supposed to jump in and have a conversation with the buyer, or worst case scenario, you need to refund them within a given time period. So that you will get more than 72 hours. I can't remember the exact date on top of my head, but they give you, I think, 4 to 5 days. I can't remember, or up to a week, right? So they say that you have this much due date, and then you have to resolve this item not received cases, for example, within that date. If you don't resolve it, they will jump in, and if they find you at fault, which for the majority of the cases they will, because they want to be siding with the buyer. That's gonna be reflected on your service metrics on your seller level as a case is closed without seller resolution, because you didn't close the case. eBay representative had to jump in and close it for you. So don't let eBay jump in. Close it yourself. Whether communicating with the buyer, asking them if it's okay for them for you to send another item, which I recommend. Let's say that you try to solve it and then the buyer didn't respond, refund the buyer. Let's say that you try to solve it, you have provided a correct tracking details, everything seems fine. Even though for the majority of the cases, hear me out. Even though for the majority of the cases, eBay will favor you if everything, given that the tracking details look like it's been delivered and you try to communicate with the buyer, everything is looking good. I have seen many cases they didn't, because they're trying to be Amazon. Just to let you know, eBay has trying to be like Amazon in the last 1 year. I don't know what's going on with them. They're changing. They're siding more with the buyer. Before, we'll put in a tracking number, and they would always side with you. Now they don't. For the majority of the cases, right? Some of the cases they will, but at the end of the day, it's not worth you getting a one case, one transaction defect is gonna throttle your impressions a lot. Okay, look what they're saying here. No more than 2 cases open against you, or 0.3% transaction. 0.3% transaction is very minimal. You get more than 4 cases, 5 cases closed without seller resolution. Let's say you made like 1,000 transactions. You got like two cases open against you for late delivery, and then four of them, like they said, 3 of them are like cases closed without seller resolution. You didn't solve them. Like 2 plus 3 is 5. Now you're below standard. And going from going from top rated seller to below standard means you are getting 60 sales a day versus you're getting 2. If you're lucky, maybe 1 or maybe 3. I don't know exactly how much you're going to get sales, but you know what I mean. Okay? It's huge night and day different. So given that five faulty actions from your side can throttle your impressions and your arbitrary sales, 50, 60, 54 of them. Imagine how much one transaction defect can throttle your impressions. Okay? Imagine. So don't let eBay step in, guys. Do not let eBay step in. Okay? Nail that on your head. I don't know, print that word out and then just stick it on your wall. Do not let eBay step in. Do not get transaction defects. Okay? Transaction defects is like your jail time. They will put you in jail and you're not allowed to go out. Okay, moving on. I hope you get the message to the home. Transaction defect rate, the same thing, right? We evaluate your performance on the 20th. So each time that they evaluate and then they put you in jail, they restrict your account, is going to be on the 20th of each month. So 20th of the PDT time. You will see that reflection on your ebay.com.au account on the anywhere between 21st to 22nd. Okay, so 22nd of each month. So for example, I'm recording this video on 11th of October. My next evaluation period is going to be after 10 or 11 days. Okay, I'm not sure about the exact time. I never checked it. I think that's when the evaluation kicks in, when the PDT turns into the 20th, right? Pacific time turns into the 20th, right? I don't know how many hours we're ahead of them, or if they're ahead of us. I'm not sure. I don't really care. I'm keeping my seller level very high anyways, so I don't need to worry about this, right? And best believe, if I got a defect, there's just something has happened and I was unlucky, and then even then I'll try my best to resolve it, right? If I can, right? Moving on, top rated, as I explained to you above, means you're exceeding our performance expectations. You're performing better than they expected. Above standard means you're meeting our expectations, right? Above standard doesn't mean that you're better. It just means that like 20% is the standard, you're 21%, now you're above, right? If you think about it logically. Okay. Below standard is below 20. It could be 19.9. You're still below. Means that your performance has fallen below our minimum standard, and as a result, we may place limitations on your selling activity, including charging higher final value fees, so charging higher transaction fees, until your performance improves. Okay, and the way that it's a tricky one, because when you're below standard, in order for you to, so you're gonna be evaluated 3 monthly, right? And you have to, as I explained to you guys, if you haven't sold enough items within the last 3 months, right? They will evaluate you for the 12 months. Okay? But if they throttle your impressions and they give you very, very bad metrics, okay, you can't get that enough sale to be evaluated for 3 months. If you have been consistently performing bad for the last 3, 4, 5 months, then now they have to evaluate you for the last 12 months. And if your last 12-month evaluation is also bad, and when you're below standard, you're getting little to no sales, you are in a very, very, very bad situation. eBay is literally doesn't want you to sell. They don't like you on their store. They will put restrictions. They will do everything in order for you to stay below standard. Okay? And they will extend this period as much as they can in order to teach you a lesson. And this is where you will have to call friends and then get people to buy. There's other techniques that I can teach you for you to get out of this jail time. But best bet believe it's a very, very ugly place to be in. Extremely ugly place to be in. Okay? I have been there one time, the below standard, not the 12-month evaluation. But I have been there one time because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And these were the first times that I was selling. Once I've learned, once that they slapped my face and I'm like, okay, I understand, and I'm never gonna perform badly again. Okay? And best bet you believe majority of these things were happening because I sent the item. I know the item went, but the buyer was lying. Right? Even then I should have protected my account, given the knowledge that I know now. How we calculate your seller level: on the 20th of each month, we take a look at your recent transactions to work out your cases closed without seller resolution, your transaction defect rates, and your late shipment rate. Okay, your transaction defect rates, including the cases closed without seller resolution plus the late shipment rate. So they calculate this together, and then they give you a transaction defect rate for that. Okay. It's the percentage of your total transactions that had one of two defects. Okay, any of these. These defects often measure how satisfied your buyers were with a transaction. We don't count more than one defect per transaction. Okay, we do not count more than one defect per transaction. Meaning, if a buyer bought 2 items from you, okay, and then they said 2 of the items didn't perform, and then didn't arrive, right? They're not gonna do two defects, because that it doesn't matter how many quantity item that the buyer bought. That whole transaction is counted as one transaction. Okay, that's an important information that it might cut handy in the future when you sell more than one quantity. Okay, so moving on, as I said, transaction defect equals the transactions you canceled for being out of stock plus the cases closed without seller resolution. Okay, cases closed, transaction you cancel for being out of stock is if you go in, okay, and then you're out of stock. Like say that Amazon was out of stock, okay, and then you sold an item, and then you reached out the buyer. By the way, if you want to, I'm gonna tell you how to get around this. First transaction you cancel for being out of stock. If the buyer hasn't agreed to cancel, if the buyer hasn't sent you a message on eBay, and you refund even though the buyer doesn't know about it, even though let's say you call the buyer and they said that you can cancel it, but they did not get in contact with you on eBay messages, and you refunded the buyer even though the buyer has confirmed it with you over the phone, but eBay doesn't know that they did, best believe you're gonna get a transaction for cancellation for being out of stock transaction defects. So if you want to get around this, any kind of message, even if a buyer responds to you by saying 0 on the messages, which is very irrelevant, and you refund and you cancel, if you're gonna cancel, always cancel a item for under the reason of buyer cancelled, buyer asked to cancel, buyer requested to cancel. And if the buyer messaged you anything, right, it can be like underscore, right? They said that you message them like, hey, I'm so sorry, you know, your let's say that you made an excuse saying that you know, we tried to send your item, but the AWS process damaged it, so therefore we had the last item, I'll have to refund it. Is that okay? Let's say that the buyer replied to you by just putting an underscore or like a laughing emoji, and then you go onto his order history, and then you refund him by choosing the buyer asked to cancel or buyer cancelled. Now, because you got a reply on image on messages, and then you chose the buyer cancelled as the reason, you don't get defects for that. That's the way to get around it. Okay, but if you don't choose, if you choose anything else besides from buyer asked to cancel, you are going to get defect for that. Okay, that's gonna fall on the transaction defect rate. So make sure you don't do that. Anyways, moving on. To make sure that we're getting a fair picture, we'll adjust how far we look back the evaluation period depending on how much you have sold recently. If you had more than 400 transactions in the past 3 months, you are evaluated within that 3-month period. And the way that it works is, let's say for this October, you will be evaluated for the past 3 months. So 1 July to 30 of September. I'm not sure, was September 30 or 30? Okay, 30, yes. So my evaluation period given for the 11th of October would be from the 1 of July all the way to 30th of September. So now if you try to do the napkin math, July, August, September, it may look like 2 months, but when you take July 1st till September 30th, that's 90 days. So that's 3 months, right? So be careful with your mathematics. If you had fewer than 400 transactions, that's going to be 12 months. And if you had like just on board transaction defect rate, let's say that you were like 0 point out of like, so your transaction defect rate is 0.50 if you cross 0.50, right? So the reason why it's 0.50 is because your transaction you cancel for being out of stock, as you saw up there, the minimum threshold is 0.3%, right? And the cases closed without the seller resolution is 0.2%, right? So that's the border for that. Because the transaction defect rate is including these 2 defects, and you evaluate it as a whole, right? Including those 2 defects, 0.3 plus 0.2 equals 0.5. So when you do the math, your transaction defect rate is equals 0.5%. I know that it's going to be like, you're going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But you don't need to worry about that. Once you start selling, you go to under the performance tab, you're going to go to seller level. They're going to give the calculation on that. They're going to be displaying that on that page. You will be able to see, and you'll know what I'm talking about, so you don't have to write these down. Obviously, you're not going to be able to remember them, but just know that transaction defect rate is minimum. You have to meet 0.5%. Okay, let's say that your transaction defect rate for the last 12 months, right, was 0.49 or somewhere very, very close there. Okay, 0.49, right? And before you went below standard, you were 0.55, right? Or 0.60 for your transaction defect rate the last month. You performed horribly. Now, when you do the math, what's going to happen is, even though you will get evaluated by the 12 month, because you performed very badly the last month before they chuck you down, when you do the math across those 12 months, what's going to happen is your 12-month period evaluation is still going to be above 0.50. So you're going to be throttled. You're going to be throttled. And because you have to do at least 400 transactions in order for you to be reevaluated for the last 3 months, and when you're below standard, they are literally making you sell less. Now you're suffering because eBay is stopping your sales, right? So you can't be evaluated for the last 3 months, and you're below standard for the last 12 months, right? So you're not, even though like they've taken 12 months into consideration, if you go above 400 transaction again, they will still take the 3 month into consideration. But if you, so they can make you below standard back to back to back, is what I'm saying, right? Even after 3 months, they can still keep you below standard because your service metrics were so shit in the last 12 months. But if you want to get out of there, you either have to spend a lot of money with advertising, pay-per-click. That's a strategy to get out of there, or you have to get a lot of people to purchase, like transactions. You can't get like one person to buy 100, right? You have to have a lot of transactions. You have to approach a lot of people, right? And you have to make sure that those people are not giving you any defects in order for you to get out of this below standard jail time. It's disgusting. Okay, that's what I meant by, if you mess around with their algorithm, if you're performing bad, they don't want you there. They only want people like me who are performing good on the platform. If you're performing bad, don't start this business. If you're not gonna play the rules by the rules, don't come onto eBay. This is not your platform. Okay? You wasn't there when they were giving advertising. You wasn't there when they were building all of this. You didn't build this empire. You don't have any rights to rewrite the games. Okay? If you mess up with the algorithm, and if you try to mess up with the evaluation, and the next person that comes does it as well, all of the buyers are going to have shit experience. And guess what's going to happen? Me, you, the next person that had the view to perform, had the view to be good, we're not going to be able to see any buyers. There's not going to be any buyers on the store because eBay is going to be a very bad platform and buyers are not going to want to come. So if you're coming onto the platform and you're going to sell, make sure that you're doing the right things. Make sure that you're selling good, right? So thank God eBay is protecting the sellers. So then I can go in and have the sellers there to be able to sell. Because if you guys come in and you perform very badly, I'm going to lose all of my customers. It's got nothing to do with me, right? So this is also protecting you as well, right? If they don't protect the buyers don't come. Who are you going to sell to? Where are you going to get your friends to buy? What's the point of that? Anyways, moving on. So I'm not going to go super depth onto these. So these are just like transaction defect rates. I've already told you, went over all of these, right? Late shipment rate, again, they do evaluate this. It's one of the evaluations. Late shipment rate is evaluated 5%ly. Okay, so you got around 3 defect rates. Okay, I'm not talking about item not received cases. These are, oh, by the way, item not received cases and late shipment cases and item not described cases falls under your service metrics. They are evaluated again. Okay, do not take item not received cases lightly. They're one of the very, very important ones. Okay, make sure that you want to, because item not described, people really like, I've seen it so many times. Even the people that are very unhappy, they usually tend to skip that. I'm not sure why. They just go straight to item not received, right? So that's the number one thing that you're gonna struggle the most. So make sure that you track the item not received cases very, 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 very nicely, and they will evaluate you within your category, whatever you've been selling, right? Even if you're selling very like unrelated items, they will tend to take an average of what your category is, and whichever one category that you have the most amount of listings in, they will place you within that category. So you will always be in some sort of a category. But I'm not sure if you can jump between categories. I wouldn't bet on it. Even if you could, that would have been too much of a struggle for you, since you're going to do drop shipping. You would be limited to only little amount of category, and that'll be too bad, right? So make sure, so if you wanna go over these, I'm gonna include these links on the description as well, so then you can go right and have a look at all of these, because it's a bit of an in-depth situation. And if you want me to go in depth about these, I can. I just don't want to make the videos 3 hours long. But if you want to go over these together with me, like, you can just grab your popcorn and I can explain you what these are one by one. Just comment below. Just say, hey, let me know. Just be like, hey, let's go in depth in these. I want to learn more. Like me personally, if I want to learn something, I'd want the other person to walk me over it, the person that has the knowledge. So if you're like me, just let me know. We can always do a video about it. And I'm also going to include a second link to this, right? It's going to be talking about monitoring and improving your seller performance, just in case that you're performing badly, or if you want to take if you want to learn about how you can prevent these, or like even if you get them and then how can you recover from these, you can click on this link. It will take you directly to the eBay's page. Anyways, enough said. Salam alaikum, brothers and sisters. If you have any questions, write them down in the comment section. Please subscribe and share my videos. If you want to book a call, I'll be linking a link below. You can book a direct call from you can choose a timing that's suitable. Doesn't matter which country you're in. If you're in Australia, it will give you the same amount of same hours as I am in, because I live in Australia. So you can book a call with me if you have any questions. It's a free free call, so I can answer all of your questions. If you are already running an eBay store, but you are not a dropshipper, you can be a reseller. You can be a online arbitrage guy, reseller, whatever. You can be a wholesaler. As I said, I've taken participation in all of these besides from the wholesalers, but I do know the algorithm for all of these different e-commerce business models. Booking a call with me, I'm still able to help you. I don't mind it. You know, we can get to know each other. You know, maybe I will need you in the future. God knows. Anyways, enough said. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos. I will see you guys later.